welcome to the first ever, the inaugural Emanzini. Okay, I'm just going to wait for everyone to settle down. Oh yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Okay, cool. Let's kick off. Welcome everyone. I see some familiar faces and some new faces. That is amazing. This is your home, right? So welcome to the Villa Viva. If you've been here before, you already know that it's your home. If you're here for the first time, you're hearing it from me today. Make this your home. If it's your first time, don't let it be your last, please. There's always something amazing happening in this space. And this Emanzini Forum is just one example. So, as I said, this is the first ever Emanzini. That means in the water. We, Viva Con Agua, that is an organization that does a lot with water. We address the issue of lack of access to water, and we do a lot of work with sanitation and hygiene as well. I won't go into that spiel, but I am around if you want to talk about that, and my colleagues are around as well. I will just ask them to raise their hands. They're around. Just look behind you. The people with their hands up can chat to you about who Viva Con Agua is and how you can get involved. It's super easy, and we're a great team. We're very fun, so yeah. Emanzini is going to be a series of engagements for change makers, essentially. This is a place where you meet other movers and shakers trying to make a positive change, using creative ways to do that, and we inspire each other. We learn from each other, we share skills, we share knowledge, all that good stuff. Today, speaking about sharing all that good stuff, we have a very exciting conversation. I'm looking forward to it, and I've been prepping for it, so that's how you know it's going to be good. We have brothers Max and Fritz, who are going to be having a conversation with us. We've also got Yannick, a very special friend of Viva Con Agua and longtime supporter. He is a speaker, and he's very kindly actually offered to facilitate this discussion. So he's going to be talking to Max and speaking to Fritz as well about their Cape to Cairo challenge. So some of you who have seen the invite, those who are here because they got an invite, you read a little bit about it. I won't go into it because that's what they're here for. But they're hoping to run from Cape to Cairo in 200 days. And they're doing it for a great cause. So let's hear them tell us all about it. Welcome. Yeah, while they settle down, just some house rules. Obviously, please put your phones on silent because it disturbs the space when a phone goes off while someone is speaking. There is water by the bar, in the bar area. There are also drinks in the bar if you want to buy some drinks. The space is cashless, so cards only. And if you're looking to be a bit more responsible than drinking water, I'm told that you can save water by drinking wine in the yellow area. So, yeah, check that out as well. Yeah, okay, take it away. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Lily. Quick round of applause for Lily. Thank you very much. All right, in case you're wondering, who's sitting up here? Sonny. He's going to be the focus of attention. It's the second dog of this house as of today. Before we start with anything, we want to make sure we get the temperature in the room. Meaning, we need to understand who's coming here and why. So can I get a quick hand raise? Hand raise on if you enjoy something or not. Just quickly, do you enjoy running? There's no halves. There's only yes, I freaking love it. Or so keep your hand up. Keep your hand up. So we got a few runners in the crowd. Beautiful. Now, keep your hand up if you enjoy running your casual 5K. 5 kilometers. A few hands are slowly dropping. We're talking about, have you done a half marathon before? A hand just went up. Interesting. All right. Beautiful. Who has done a marathon before? We got two here. Only two? All right? Who has, of you two, it's going to be a stare down. Who has done an ultra marathon before? Which is pretty much anything above 40 kilometers. No? Okay. How many marathons you've done? Two. How many marathons you've done? One. When did you... there you go. We got a winner. Fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for coming. My question is, how long was the difference between the first marathon and the second marathon? 1 year. 1 year? Beautiful. Now, this is a normal, sporty human average person who's done 2 marathons in his life with a 1 year difference. Right here is sitting someone who is trying to do 260 marathons consecutively, or in different words, 11,000 kilometers. And if you put that on an average, because they want to do it in 200 days, that means approximately 60 kilometers every single day. Just to put that into a little bit of a benchmark. Boys, now there's a bit of pressure to explain that stuff. Now, I don't know what you thought when you heard about this event, but my feeling was, the first big question was, why? Why would you do something like this when there's other things on how to spend your spare time? Fritz, you want to give us a first introduction of what made you think about something as simple as running from Cape Town to Cairo?
Yeah, funnily, that's also the question that comes up every day you run. So whenever you do that, you consistently think about why. Why would I need to take the next step, or why am I putting myself through this? I think it's a bit of a mix of things. I used to cycle 10 months also in Africa, in southern and eastern Africa, and I got to experience that actually this life on the road, just moving around every day, not knowing where you're gonna sleep, who you're gonna meet. I very much enjoy this freedom and this way of life. So that's nothing that puts extra stress onto me, but rather that's something I really enjoy. Whereas when you tell other people about it, they tell you you're nuts. They can't imagine just, not knowing where they're gonna spend the night, moving around with their own physical power every day. So that was already one element that was there, which I thought, okay, maybe there's something I can do with that. And then I came back from cycling, and I was in Europe, and I told people about what I did, and a lot of questions were going into directions, but what were the bad experiences? Like, how many times did you get robbed? What did people do to you? And I was just shocked that everybody expected bad things to happen, whereas I never had anything close to a bad experience with people. I only experienced generosity, love, hospitality, warm-hearted people. And that was such a stark contrast that I just wanted to have a platform to show people that we're much better than we think we are. And I think people are actually great, and we get to experience that out on the road. And yeah, then I had this link with me being on the road, knowing that I can live this lifestyle. I wanted to convey this message. And then also I met a random guy at a triathlon who said he wanted to run from Cape Town to Cairo. And without much thinking about it, spontaneously, my mind was like, yeah, that sounds like a fucking good idea. And ever since I went with it. And I think that's how this whole thing came together.
And all just to prove one point, that humans are good.
Yeah.
That is one hell of a mission. That's very impressive. Now, you have that as a goal to run this. Max, how do you fit into this picture with this person now running 11,000 kilometers?
I'm basically the support team. I'm the cook. I'm the vehicle who carries everything. The social media crew, the cameraman. Yeah, basically that.
And do you want to explain on how you're going to support him specifically? Are you going to be running right next to him?
Now, I'm cycling, so I have my bicycle with me, and we're gonna have approximately like 60 kilograms with us, 70, depending on the water. So sometimes you have to carry like more than 20 liters of water with you, because like especially in the deserts, there are sometimes stretches with over 250 kilometers without any supply of water. Yeah, so that's hell of a mission to get like luggage for 2 person, food for 2 person, and water for 2 person on one bicycle.
Okay, so we have one person who's going to run it, and the other person's going to cycle it. Max, quick question for you. How many times have you been cycling in the past?
Fucking hell. Yeah, so actually the day we left Cape Town was the first day I cycled 60 kilometers with 50 kilograms on a bicycle.
Thank you for the woo. Just to put this in perspective, if you've done a marathon, you've been training for that a long time, right? And you just came from an Ironman triathlon. You just call it the triathlon. And you trained for a long time for that. This person decided to have his first trial on a bicycle on the first day of the competition. And I think that is very admiring and very optimistic at the same time. So very, very impressive. Now, as a thought, there's beautiful routes all across the world, right? I know of some friends who've done Latin America, who've done Africa. Why Cape Town to Cairo? What made you choose that route specifically?
Yeah, I think with a lot of, I mean, I could come up with, a good explanation now, but to be very honest, there's, as you said, there's tons of things you can do, and sometimes you must just go with whatever there is. So this time it was pretty much Henry, the guy I met, the South African guy I met. He said he wanted to do Cape Town to Cairo, and I just went with it. I didn't think too much about alternatives, because once you get started, there's so many beautiful routes and whatever. But for now, it's this project, Cape Town to Cairo. Also, since I cycled here a bit, I know what I get myself into. So I don't want to say it's my comfort zone, but I have a bit of experience knowing a few other countries, the people, the roads. So that makes it a bit easier in a way. And yeah, I mean, same with the 200 days. Literally, Henry said, I want to do it in 200 days. I'm like, yeah, okay, let's do 200 days. There's no further calculation or anything behind it. So yeah, sometimes it's all arbitrary and random anyway. So you just go with the best guess, and yeah.
The actual, like the recent record is 318 days. So we're gonna smash it if we do it in 200.
Yeah,
Just a little if. And I admire that you didn't go so the World Guinness record is 318 days from Cape Town to Cairo. So I was thinking, why not go for 317? Why not just beat it? You want to crush it. And that is absolutely impressive as a thought. Now, just for the context here for everybody, you might have seen this in the reels. You've already had your first try at it last year. You want to tell us a bit on how that was? Because we had him trying out the bicycle for the first time ever, and we had you running 60 kilometers every single day consecutively. How was that?
Yeah, I think it's never a one-sided thing. It was definitely very tough in the beginning. I think on day 2, I was thinking of when is it okay to quit? And I realized on day 2 it may be a bit too early to quit on the second day. I then reminded myself of some meditation experiences. I've done some meditation retreats that are 10 days long. And usually it's very tough on the second day as well. And then once you push through to the 10th day, it gets somewhat easier. So I thought, okay, if I make it to day 10 and it's still as bad as it is now, I will quit. But luckily, the body adapts. The mind adapts, the body adapts. And it got easier and easier. So you feel how you get into the shape. Also deal with your surroundings. I mean, we're both from Northern Europe, used to German weather mostly. And then I remember just starting the first day in Cape Town. It was maybe just 20 degrees, but it was sunny all day. And just like my skin wasn't adapted to the sun yet, and already that took a big toll on me. And 2 weeks later, we were running through the Namibian desert in 40 degrees and just no shade at all, and my body could still cope. So that just showed me how quickly the body can actually adapt, and same with the running as well. So physically, we were there. Like, we proved to ourselves, I can go the distances we plan to. I can deal with the outer circumstances. And then I think the beautiful thing that came on top of all that is that we're doing this to prove that people are great. So you somewhat already say, you know, guys, this is what's going to happen, and you have your own expectations. But then we actually were on the road, and there was even more support and even more participation in what we were doing than what we would have imagined. And it both came through social media and also on the road, the people we met. I don't think there's been a single day where there was not one person stopping and helping us out with food, water, shelter, whatsoever. There's always some people taking part in what you're doing, supporting you. And I think that's also when you ask yourself every day why I'm doing this. This is very much the fuel that makes you go another 10, another 20 kilometers, whilst you're already completely done and you just want to stop.
Day by day, another 60. That is very, very impressive. Now, my question would be, could you give us a glimpse of what does your 9 to 5 look like on such a day? Every day seems to be a bit of a routine. What time you get up? How is that beautiful breakfast that you're going to be enjoying? And then just give us a bit of, like, what is the structure of a 9 to 5 for a life in your shoes?
So like wake up time is 5:30. Sometimes I sleep in a bit longer, but Fritz wakes up 5:30 every day. We then do a breakfast, which is basically oats, some dried fruits. We come do food later. So then he starts running. So just gets in the clothes, starts running, and I'm pitching down the tents, like putting everything in, put it on the bike, and then catch him on the road. And then we're on the road for it's basically 8 hours straight running with the breaks. So it's a bit depending how hot it is. So if it gets very hot, like 40 degrees, so you try to cover yourself in shade over noon. So you have a break for 2 or 3 hours, because if you run in that, you are basically dying. So then we start running at 3 or 4 again till evening. I'll find us a spot to camp, or we find some shelter everywhere. And I pitch up the tents, cooking. Fritz is gonna rest a bit, do a bit of stretching. I'll do the social media, cutting the reels. He's doing a voiceover, and then we hopefully fell into bed at 9 or 10, and then repeat.
How many of those days did you have consecutively the last time you did it?
24?
Yeah, I think around that, bit more than 3 weeks.
24. Yeah. Can you give us so you had probably certain expectations. I'm going to pack all of this. It's like going on vacation. You're thinking you're going to need all of this, and then it's going to be different if you have to carry this on a bike. You said 60 to 70 kilograms. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's a lot. Now, in that context, after those 22 days, what worked better than you expected?
Everything.
I mean, we started off with, to be fair, I think I did most of our equipment and all of that, but Max carries most of the stuff. So I had a bit of a, like, I felt, well, we rather take more than less because I don't have to carry it. But then we realized Max actually also struggled, especially going uphill with all the weight and everything. So I think after 5 days, we already sent 10 kilos back to Cape Town. But after that, we actually had a really good setup, and we realized that just with the minimum stuff we had, that was all the necessities. I think certainly in that I'd done some cycling trips before helped with knowing what to pack, what works, what doesn't work. And then we also realized that we are just a very small team, meaning the two of us, but it works quite well because we have very few interfaces and we're both on the road just knowing exactly what we need to do, as opposed to some other expeditions having a much more people there, but then more stuff gets lost in translation, and maybe you have support vehicles that then get stuck, or you don't get them across borders or whatsoever. So actually the setup we chose turned out to be quite efficient and worked quite well.
Can I dive in there in a second? You just have you two. Now, there's a saying, friends we choose, families given. Those are brothers. I want to ask, why did you do that together as a family event, almost?
Yeah, I knew that I need someone by my side for this project. And I also know that there'll be times where you need someone you can connect to deeply, because there are stretches on the road where you are amongst people all the time, but due to lack of communication and different cultural backgrounds, it's actually very hard to connect to anyone. And you're already stressed physically, but then people are on the road everywhere. They want to talk to you. They want to know what's going on. You pitch up your tent, like 30 people are there around you staring at you. You eat your food. You have a whole village staring at you. You want to sleep. You have 40 kids running around your tent, and there's no one who understands your suffering or your burden. So you need someone to actually share that with, just even on an emotional basis. So I knew whoever I take with me, that's got to be someone that is not extra friction or cost me any emotional energy. And I knew that Max and I get along very well, and that I could see him fulfill that role. Because, like, I think starting a few years ago, we just started sharing a lot and being best friends as well. And then I just offered it to him and said, hey, you also want to take a break. I need a travel buddy. If you can see yourself doing this instead of going to another place, you're welcome. If not, obviously you're free to choose other stuff. But I let it sit with him, and after a few months, he came back to me and said, "Yeah, I'm in."
Did you regret it?
No, not yet.
Not yet. There's a lot of expectations for the family dinner at Christmas, I think, in your house. Talking about like just the struggle itself. Max, what are some good ways? Because you see him and you know him very well by now. You see him suffer. You see him struggle. How can you push this guy to go towards his limit and likely not crossing that limit all the time? Because again, you want to do this 200 days in a row.
Yeah, it's always a mix of, like, sometimes when he's in that, it's a bit of mode, like after 60 or 50 kilometers in the desert, you can't really talk to him anymore. So he's in a, he's just running, and then sometimes you have to do a bit of, he's pushing himself very good. So that's basically not my job. But yeah, you have to give him the space that he can just do his thing and don't have to think about where we're sleeping, what is going to happen next, and blah. So I'll carry all of that, and he's having his time running.
He's having the pure enjoyment to himself because you don't have to do anything.
Exactly.
And I think what also really helps is, I mean, when I struggle, I'm like, fuck, I have my brother next to me. He's carrying all the shit. He's doing everything for me. All I gotta do is running. So that actually pushes me to, do my job.
And the other way around.
And then he is like, well, I can't complain, being on this bike because I have this freaking brother next to me who's running all the way. So I think it's a bit of an upward spiral where we both, like, we're doing our parts and we're doing them well, and then you don't want to let the other one down.
So it's mutual support on that one. When it comes to struggle, we all know this from our sports challenges ourselves. We often think, there's someone else struggling more, right? So when I did my marathon once, I thought, my mom is doing an Ironman. That's going to be a different story. Who do you compare yourself to? Like, who do you think is struggling more than what you do with 200 days running 60 kilometers every single day?
Yeah, I mean, in the end, also, you have to find your own why and your own reason. I think with these things, just trying to be someone else or as good or as fast as someone else, that's not a good enough why to actually keep you going. But also, it's very funny that once you start looking into these things, there are people running from LA to New York doing, I think the world record is averaging now more than 100 kilometers a day. So there's always people doing more crazy stuff. There's this German guy, also Jonas Deichmann. He's also doing crazy things. Like, he doesn't even know how to swim properly and just jumps into the Mediterranean and swims for 10 hours a day, and then like doing swim packing, like having his tent
For like a month.
Yeah, like pulling a dry sack behind him and just climbing randomly out of the water somewhere, setting camp, and then keep on going the next day, realizing the current is too strong, so he's actually going backwards and just climbing back out of the water and try again the next day. I mean, there's always, like, once you're in that field, you will always find a more crazy person. But yeah, that's, as I said, like, you're in the end, you don't even have the capacity to think about that too much.
It seems to be a niche community where it's like, we're
Yeah,
not going to
very
plan too
niche.
much. We're not going to plan. We're just going to go for it, and we see what we actually need, right?
Yeah, because I mean, the truth is, and that's the beautiful thing, right? We always try to, like, in the end, life is uncertain, and we try to make plans and organize and structure to sort of get rid of this uncertainty. But once you go out on the road and just do these adventures, that just very much in your face shows you how little you can actually plan and how little certainty there is. So I think the more you try to create that plan and that way it's got to go down, the more frustration and energy, like, you'll lose a lot of energy just trying to hold on to something that wouldn't work.
Let's talk about that planning part then a little bit. And just in terms of equipment, right? We talk about 50 to 70 kilograms to be carried on a bike. That sounds like it's a lot, but it's not really. What do you need in terms of, let's start with nutritional aspect. You are burning quite a few calories doing that every single day. Where do you get your food?
Yeah, it's actually much easier than you would think. So I have a bit of sports nutrition with me as a base. That is mostly electrolytes, really, because I'm also sweating a lot, and at some point you can't drink enough anymore to just get all that salt and stuff in. So electrolytes are really helpful also with recovery and going every day. And then I have a few bars and gels, but I maybe have one or two of those in a day, just when maybe you have too little carbs in your body and you need a bit of a top up and you don't have any, place to refuel. But usually you get always to a village at least every second or third day, even in, I think, support or supply wise, southern African countries, speaking South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, they have the vastest distances in terms of villages or towns. And then afterwards, once you go to more Central African countries like Zambia, Tanzania, Kenya, Ethiopia, there's always people around and there's always villages. So there it's actually really easy to refuel and resupply. So carrying the food is usually not that much of a challenge. And then you literally just go with whatever you find. That's, I mean, mostly bananas. You can find them throughout Africa. Peanut butter is, I mean, that's probably 80% of the calories.
We're living off that.
Yeah. And then the muesli we would always prepare like that. We take with us in the mornings. Once we get to a bigger city, there's a good supermarket. We just get everything and pack it down for maybe 1 or 2 weeks. And at night we eat a lot of couscous because that's easy to make and actually you don't waste any water. And that has a lot of carbs, obviously, which you need to go running again the next day. So it's very simple food, but just whatever you find on the road. Also once you get up further north, there's so much street food, and wherever you get a chapati or some corn or whatever on the road, you just snack whatever you get. So actually the refueling, is easier than you would think.
You don't seem to be like a picky eater, but let me ask the chef on the bicycle. How do you treat him from a culinary perspective? What do you give him as like, well done, good job today. This is mwah, this is for you.
I think we haven't introduced that yet, but I certainly will ask for it on the second attempt.
Damn. Now we're the variety isn't that big, so because food has to have like certain factors. You have to be able to carry it for a couple of days. So it has to be water efficient. So basics, for example, like in the morning, we use pre-mixed oats with like oats, dried fruits, and we either use Nesquik or like protein powder, which you basically just pour water on, mix it. So it has to be fast then, and it has to give him power, and it has to be digestically like good as well, because in front of it as a runner, you can't eat like like steaks in the morning and then run an ultramarathon. So there are certain factors which a food has to be able to and so it's not that big variety, sadly, but did you still like couscous, or would you think after 200 days you would ever eat couscous again?
No, I think I can still do couscous. But I think what keeps you going and what's the best after a 60K run, like we started calling gas stations oasis. Like that's the best because they have a cold Coke and a cold Coca-Cola after 8 hours in the sun. It's the best thing to refresh and get new energy.
And remember, we called every tree we found the oasis.
Yeah.
So he doesn't seem to be a picky eater, but you picked up on the mood here. It would be nice every other day, every other week to have something special, right? Since he's working for it now, beyond couscous.
You introduced him to that.
just an invitation. We just poured another glass of water. How much water do you need a day when you're running for 8 hours?
Yeah, I need to drink at least 6 to 7 liters. But then you add, obviously, the water you use for cooking. And, I mean, we don't really use that much water for cleaning stuff. Or if at all, you rinse your bowl and you would still drink that water because you don't want to toss anything away.
It's actually very interesting if you don't have running water and you have to be very picky with using water, so you can't even rinse your plate. you don't like you don't do it because otherwise you need the water for drinking. And then, like, for brushing teeth, you just don't put water on it. You just do it like that. It's a bit,
Yeah.
you have to get into that, but by time, it's just normal.
So yeah, I think the two of us, we need up to 15 liters a day. I think around that, yeah.
15 liters a day. That makes sense from the start, but then where do you get that water from every single day?
Yeah, so as I said before, usually resupplies are not that difficult to find. But then again, once you go through Namibia or also northern South Africa, there's longer distances. The honest answer is, if we hadn't had people stopping with cars, like we would literally stop on the side of the road and hold out our water bottles and be like, hey guys, can you please stop? And people would stop. Like sometimes 3 out of 3 cars, everyone stopped immediately, gave us water. So there's a lot of support there, and I think without it, we would have struggled a lot.
And I mean, like, that topic really brings us to Viva Con Agua as well, where we had some situations where you're in the middle of nowhere and you come to a remote, like, village, and the whole village with, like, schools and everything there is just running from one borehole that's there. And if the borehole wasn't there, this whole village wouldn't survive a day. And especially we as well, if we haven't crossed them, we wouldn't have carried on. So that was so intense experience to see that just like one borehole can help so many people. And yeah, it was very, very intense to see that, and impressive as well what you can do with that.
Another proof point that water should be accessible to all, since you're running across it. Beautiful to see that people just stopping on the roads and giving you some precious water. Also crazy that you are dependent on this and that it still works out. Another proof point that people are great, that you can just give it a try, go running, and people will help you out. So we talk about food, we talk about water. Let's talk about your equipment real quick. All right, so you have a sleeping bag, you have a tent, you use running shoes, or you're running in flip-flops?
Well, I cycled in flip-flops, actually, very much they are still the same.
He did the fucking Ironman in these.
As well. But yeah, we have the running shoes over there, actually. I think that's what they look like when I start. That's the new pair. And then
how long do they say, like the typical sports salesperson, how long do they say after these amount of kilometers you should be coming back to us to buy new ones?
Usually 800 to 1,000 kilometers.
800 to 1,000, 11,000 kilometers. That would make it how many pairs of shoes? 15.
Yeah.
Why? No. This one is even better. Because that's what they look like when this little fellow goes running.
Yeah.
First, you want to explain to us why they look as beautiful as they look?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a lot of. I think they hold on the Namibian roads like 700 kilometers, and yeah, I think what actually happens is that the tar is so hot, like it's well over 50, 60 degrees. It just literally burns. Like once that blue layer is gone, it just burns through that foam immediately. And you can see how like this whole thing just wears off. So yeah, I think the conditions on these roads are just really tough on the shoes.
How do you get these new shoes? Because you're not going to be carrying 15 pair of shoes with you the whole time.
Yeah, we always have 2 to 3 pairs with us, and then we have our storage here in Cape Town, and every now and then we send new shoes up the road. We either have people joining us and then they can bring it with them on the bus or the car or whatever, or we need to send packages. But yeah, sending packages in Africa is a whole challenge in and of itself. So if possible, always have people carrying them with them.
So you have milestones where you have always check-ins with people that are going to be waiting for you?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, I mean, those are always a bit flexible, like, because we can never, say day by day. So it's more you start running, and then, for example, now we knew when roughly we would be in Windhoek, but then once we got closer to it, we would set like specific dates, because then we could actually know when we would be there. And that how it goes along the road. So we would say, okay, we are there beginning of March or beginning of May, roughly here or there, and then people sort of have an idea, and then once we're actually getting closer, we can say specifically what is the time frame going to be.
So you do have a bit of a support system. Now, to the audience, I'm not sure if you are already feeling inspired, hopefully you do, to do your own little thing like this, a crazy run, a little fundraiser. So I thought let's give them a bit of a how-to guide. How can I get my own Guinness World Record? How can I get my own fundraiser happening? Just a bit of best practices. Let's start with the top one. This is, if it works out, going to be a Guinness World Record. Because the old one was a boring 319 days, and the new one potentially will be slightly under at 200. How do you get it? How do you get a Guinness World Record? How do you sign up for that stuff?
Yeah, it's. I think, like with most of the things, it's much easier than you would think it is. I mean, you still got to do the thing in the end, but just the signing up is you create. They have a website. You create an account, and then you say it's either a new thing you want to do, like a completely new record, or an existing record. In this case, it's an existing record, so you sign up for that, and then you explain them the background, like a bit of a cover letter, what your project is actually about, and all of these things. And then they, after some time, send you guidelines. So all they do is say, all right, if you want to do these things, then we need X, Y, Z documentation from you to afterwards be able to prove that you actually did it. So in our case, what that entails is obviously GPS tracks from each and every day and each and every step I took. Then we need 10 minutes of video material every day, just showing that I'm actually running. Pictures, and we have a bit of a guest book where people sign in, and they sign that we actually ran by, which also is a nice thing for social interaction, because you meet people and then you have them sign.
And it's kind of cute because they're all like, "Oh yeah, like it's so nice to meet you guys," and it's so cool.
Yeah, so that's actually, in the beginning we were like, oh, fuck, that's, just another task, but it actually turned out to be a cute thing to have. We're also collecting receipts, so we just, like all the gas stations or wherever we stop, we just collect the receipts, so they see we actually went through all these locations. And yeah, I think that's about it. And then after, like, literally just you do the whole thing, and then you send all the proof to them, and then they go through all of it, and then exactly they just say, all right, we accept it or we don't. So you wouldn't know only up until afterwards if they actually accept your record.
Okay, so we expect a lot of Guinness World Records in this crowd moving forward. Seems to be super easy. Talking about the fundraiser then, how can you get the finance? Because you're making this an incredible fundraising opportunity. How would you give people an advice, some recommendations, how to find sponsors for this type of thing? Because it is costly.
Yeah, I think you need a lot of enthusiasm and courage to just go approach people, and don't worry about being rejected, because when you do these things, it's not the obvious sales opportunity. I think you are somewhere more in the like creative arts space, rather than, all right, you're a Berlin runner, you have a big community. If I give you my products and I sign up on your Instagram account, immediately I can translate that into XYZ sales. That's just not the thing with our project. And if you only tell people, well, we want to show the world that people are great, and don't you want to support that message? It's kind of hard in nowadays. Like the departments, they just work based on numbers, and they already have their marketing budgets allocated and all of that. So you just gotta approach a lot of people, definitely, just not sending random emails, but rather find people working somewhere on LinkedIn, call them immediately, just, their add-ins telling you their phone numbers, and then just make personal connections. And then still it's a whole lot of effort. And especially doing the first project now, it's really not easy. I feel sometimes it's easier to just do your actual job, like just work elsewhere, get money there, and use that for the project, rather than spending a lot of time writing all these emails, making contacts. It's actually a lot of work, and unless you have a reputation for pulling through or for actually being able to do these things, people, like, I was on the phone with people and they were like, yeah, well, maybe call me back when you booked flights. I was just, well, I have better, like, if I wasn't serious about this, I wouldn't be on the phone with you right now. But people ask for sponsoring for, they want to do a weekend they go somewhere on the weekend, and then they call companies and be like, hey, can you sponsor me? And they're like, well, you are a customer, why would we give it to you for free? But it's just a lot of people asking for sponsoring these days. It's actually tougher than you would think. And then again, everything that is material sponsoring still works well. But if it's on top financial support, that's a tough one to get.
You combining all of this, right? You got a shoe sponsor. You make it a fundraiser. Overall, you have a tech sponsor in a sense. What would you give people as an advice then when it comes to the whole logistical aspect of it? Because you've tried this out now, and you've done it for a few weeks to understand, we didn't even need all of this. What would you give them as a best practice? This is a starter guide on how much to pack.
Always less. Like less is more, definitely. Especially, you will just hate yourself on the uphills, especially. Just carrying all this weight, and also with clothes. Like you're not running a fashion show. You just need, you need that one shirt that fits well, and that's about it. Maybe a second one, but you're gonna rinse it every now and then. You're not on a date where you have to smell super nice or whatever. Like you'll be sweaty. You just rinse it out every now and then. So that's definitely one thing. And then just pack simple stuff. Don't have too many spares or too many second of whatever. Just go with one thing that works. If it breaks, put zip ties and duct tape. With that, you can basically repair everything. The rest people will do for you somewhere on the road. You will always find help as well. And don't overthink it. I think if you have a okay-ish tent, it's probably gonna be good enough. You don't have to. I often feel people overthink their equipment, and they do, maybe because they enjoy it. I just don't enjoy planning and preparing. I enjoy doing the things. I feel sometimes people actually enjoy preparing 1 year for a 2-week trip. I rather do it the other way around. But a lot of it, if you have an okay tent, it's probably going to be good enough. Yeah. You don't need to do 5 weeks of research on what is the best tent and what's the marginal gain on that. So rather take it easy, take less, and the rest will be fine.
You mentioned the biggest learning was sending 10 kilograms back already in week 1, which is like, all right, you are out and you're not going to come along the next time. So I'm going to open this for the audience in a moment, in case you have questions, based on everything you've heard, based on everything that you might like, oh, wait a second, how did you going to do this? But one thing, of course, why are you sitting now here? And why are you not on the road? Because it started in November, correct? What happened?
Yeah, we set off on it was in October, and yeah, we came all the way up to Windhoek, so that was already 1,500 kilometers of running. And as I said, it went all well. I managed to do, like, I think the longest was 80 kilometers a day we did. And it all worked fine up until one morning. I couldn't bring my left leg to move properly anymore. It was literally, I was limping badly and I couldn't get in the running movement. And yeah, then I realized, shit, okay, I gotta go see a physio. So I was literally on the side of the road, stopping a car, texted some people on Instagram who I knew were in Windhoek, who's a good physio to see. 3 hours later, I was with a physio. But yeah, that also didn't really help. I mean, in the beginning, we thought it was something with an overworked muscle. But we were waiting for 2 weeks in Windhoek, still didn't get better. And then we did an MRI scan and realized that my left hip joint, was inflamed. And that was actually due to, like, on my left leg, there's more bone than on my right leg. So there's less space in the joint for the bone to move around. And in training, I ran 200 kilometers a week, which is already almost 30 Ks a day. That was never a problem, but just going on, like, we doubled it. So going over 400 kilometers a week, with that little extra friction in that joint, that actually caused the inflammation.
And it's basically a common thing. So, like, you and me will be like, maybe with 80 or 90, we may get a new hip. But if you do ultramarathon every day, it causes that inflammation.
So yeah, eventually we decided that the hip takes some time to heal. And we didn't want to give up entirely. We also didn't want to go back home because it would have been costly to take the flights, and it's winter there, and yeah, here it's nice. So we decided to come back down here and try again in March. So right now, actually I had my first run again yesterday after 3 months of not running at all, and it's really, yes, I mean, I enjoy running, obviously, so just, the whole project aside, it was just nice to have your body moving again as you're used to it, and just be able to run along trails and be in nature. So that was pretty cool, and I slowly feel that the body gets fit again, and I hope we'll be ready to start all over in March.
So now you have time to reset, and you have time to ask some questions. You're more awake than Sunny right here, so my foot is not alive anymore. Therefore, any questions from the audience of what you'd like to ask Max and Fritz on running 60K, 200 days in a row?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's around, obviously now it's getting more with, extending and all of that. Luckily, I found a job fairly quickly and I can work remotely. So the 3 month here, we can somewhat cover our costs. But yeah, it's around 30,000 overall. But that is because we do it with the setup we do it. You have other expeditions with cars and a whole film crew and all of that, and then you'll easily in like the hundreds of thousands. So 30,000 is like probably the bare minimum for, it's almost 7 months on the road. And then I think if we want to do a documentary, and actually we will get some footage along the way, but then produce a documentary afterwards, that's a whole, like, that probably costs another, like, more than the 30Ks that just the journey costs. So if, yeah, that's like still to be seen where that money eventually would come from. But yeah, the rough for just the run is 30K.
Question was, what's the biggest motivation?
For the run. Yeah, it's literally this, like, you just realize that thing grows bigger than yourself. I mean, obviously, to some degree, I enjoy running. To some degree, I like challenging myself. But then it's literally, you get messages from people who haven't been running for 5 years, and they randomly stumbled across your Instagram profile, and you get them back to moving and being active again, and seeing people on the road every day supporting you and taking part in what you're doing, and seeing that whole thing grow, and actually people participating and benefiting from what you do, and that you actually manage to inspire people, that is hugely rewarding, and that is the biggest motivation to actually get going every morning.
Oh boy. Do you listen to music while you're running each day?
Yeah, I sometimes do, but I mostly don't. I'm used to running without music, and keeping it that way actually allows me to have music as a bit of a boost. Like, sometimes when it gets really tough and I tune into music, then it can have that bit of extra dopamine and extra push. Whereas if I listen to music all the time, then it's kind of even hard to run without it, because then sometimes something is not there, like it's missing a part. So often I would just run without anything, and then only in the very tough hours I would listen to music for 1 or 2 hours to somehow get through.
Sure. 200 days of music is a big playlist, huh?
Yeah.
Can you speak to sort of how you prepare mentally then? Because you're very much up in your head, I would imagine, with nothing to listen to. I mean, you have your brother to speak to, of course, but there's that physical aspect of this run that you have to prepare for. What about sort of mental toughness? Can you speak upon that?
Yeah, I think it's several things, and it certainly doesn't come overnight. But the same thing you do physically, just going on long runs, that also helps mentally a lot. And just not when you have a tough day, or it's not working as well, and you don't use music or other things to distract you, but like just staying with that inner resistance and just accept it and be okay with it. That actually helped me a lot in preparation. I also do a fair amount of meditation, which helps, because in the end it's the same thing you do. Like when you do Vipassana meditation and you sit and it's painful, what you do is you don't get up. You would just accept that there's an unpleasant sensation right now, and you stay sitting, and eventually you don't die from it, right? It's just something that's there. And that's a bit of the same mindset you apply when you cycle or you run and you're out there. It's like when it starts raining and you complain about the rain, it's just your own, like, that's just you wasting your energy. It won't make the rain go away. And if you start complaining about a mountain and you start screaming and shouting at it, that mountain won't shrink. You still have to run up the mountain, right? So I think that just not wasting energy on these things, but just accepting them for what they are, actually helps a lot. But it's always so much easier said than done. And I think I still benefit hugely from that bike trip as well, because that was just 10 months of getting into into the state of mind where you have you have these situations which are not cool, where you're out in the sun on a dirt road going uphill and have a bunch of tsetse flies coming after you and just biting the hell out of you, and you just can't do anything about it, right? Like you can't. It's just the way it is. Some days are just shit, but then there's gonna be good days again as well. And I think overall life is like that as well. There's gonna be good days. There's gonna be bad days, no matter what you do. Like also, if you have the most comfortable life sitting in a chair and don't expose yourself to all these physical challenges, sooner or later life is going to hit you. And I think these challenges just make it more obvious and show it more in your face, but it's the same underlying mechanisms.
Justin, I don't want to hear you any more complaining about any type of sports moving forward. We have time for a question. Yeah, all the way in the back.
So obviously you've touched on a couple of things. Right now you actually also touched on the tsetse flies. So it means you also go through some things that are beyond just being tired or being hungry or being dehydrated. But I want to ask though, and I'm going to be a typical South African asking this, do you ever encounter any dangerous situations along the road? And if you have, then what do you do? It could be wildlife, could be human beings. Yeah, that's a question.
Yeah, I think the only dangerous thing we encounter are people driving cars and trucks. I think that's the most dangerous thing by far. Being on the road, sometimes having no shoulder, and not everyone has their eyes on the road all the time. But once people stop their cars or we encounter them outside of their vehicles, we've only had good experiences. And same with wildlife, never any issues. And I think that's exactly what this project is about. I think the more, because even if you travel in a car, there's already, you set yourself apart from your surroundings. There's already a barrier, and especially if you go to more rural or even like poorer places, then people think you're not necessarily one of them. Whereas when you run or when you cycle, you're very much like, you're vulnerable, but you're also much more approachable. So it seems like you're more part of the people you meet, and people approach you much more with open arms than if you travel differently. And or maybe they also just take pity in us. But we've only had good experiences and had support from the people we met.
I can very much encourage you also to listen into some of these podcasts they are on, because there's like a headspace safari noises in the background. You hear all the wildlife. It's like meditation. It's well done. All right, last question.
Yeah, I think my question speaks to the space. So how did you find this space, and why be part of Viva Con Agua in this space and choose to do this project with them?
Yeah, I mean, the space, you mean Villa Viva? Yeah. So, working with Viva Con Agua, I mean, we're from Germany, and Viva Con Agua is from Germany, and we just know them as an organization that is very hands-on and makes a lot of projects that resonate with us. And water is a topic that I knew is a big thing in many countries also we'd go through. So it was a bit of a thing that I could relate to personally, and also I knew that it would be one of our challenges, actually getting the water along the road. And we still have a water filter with us because it's not always, you don't always know, even if you get water, if it's actually safe to drink. And yeah, people think about like it's funny when you go and people ask, yeah, but how do you charge your phone? It's like, yeah, dude, seriously, that's the least of your problems. And even if you needed to do that, you probably find someone running around with a small solar panel where you could charge it. But yeah, having access to safe drinking water can be a real challenge, and that's why supporting Viva Con Agua just made sense, because the cause makes sense to us, but also the way they approach it very much resonates with us. And yeah, the space, I mean, we came back to Cape Town, and Villa Viva is here, and it's somewhat part of Viva Con Agua, or at least working together with it. So we didn't want to be that German fundraising team and just kind of working along but never being here in person, but rather join efforts and have a bit of hands-on interaction and support as well. And that's how we ended up being here.
Thank you.
And they will stay in this space for a bit more longer, so you will have time to ask them some individual questions. But I get to ask the last one, which is, or not. No, just kidding. Here's a question. You have now time to reset. You have now time to think how you're going to move forward starting in March again. If you could ask for one wish on how to best support you, each one of you, you get one wish for everybody out there. How can they best support you when this whole thing starts again in March? What would that be? You decide who wants to start. Everybody gets one wish.
Not an easy one. Maybe it would be a very cool thing to have a big crowd to run out of Cape Town. That would be kind of cool. Yeah, go through that wish. Easy one.
Yeah, I think just whatever you have or know in your network, if you can think of someone or yourself supporting this, either donating to Viva Con Agua or maybe having even a sponsor in mind who would cater our mission financially. If you have any ideas, just let us know. Think that would be huge support, and otherwise make a small contribution to Viva Con Agua. That would be lovely.
Well put, well put. That would be lovely, a small contribution. So there's a sign-up sheet when you leave. It was for free to come in. It's not going to be for free to leave. Just kidding. It's an opportunity where you can support these two when they go again on the road in March. I think the crowd to leave the space, easy. Then every 100 kilometers would be nice, some with a cold Coca-Cola. And apart from that, just promotion, letting people know that this exists and more people find out about this. Because with that, dear Max, dear Fritz, dear Sunny, thank you very much for being here, for asking your questions. Again, they will stay around. And just one more time, absolutely incredible what you are trying to do there. All the best of luck. And if I can say so, a little bit of fun as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. What a phenomenal talk. What a phenomenal challenge. What phenomenal people, right? So, as Yannick said, thank you so much, gentlemen. You were all so amazing. Thanks, Yannick. That was an amazing conversation. I was captivated to the very last second. Max, Fritz, you're doing incredible things. You convey it well. You're both so humble. It's extraordinary. Thank you so much for your time. So, as Yannick said, they're still here. I want to ask them how much toilet paper they pack, if any. You can ask them some questions as well. So we're going to have Digital Sangoma come up and play some music while we have some one-on-one time, interact with people who are here. This is also a networking space. And come and talk to me, come and talk to some of the Viva Con Agua crew if you have something that you want to showcase yourself. This is a space that we share. This is a platform that we share. So if you're doing amazing things or know someone who's doing something amazing, come and talk to us. Let's have another Emanzini with them showcasing what they do. Yeah, okay, have a great time. Thank you so much.